Hey, welcome back to another video. We're going back to the Judge Mathis. Let's get it, let's go. No time to waste.
Okay, so now you're going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, you wanted to be like a black separatist.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
You did not want to work on bringing up black people. You thought that black people need their own country and their own...
That's correct.
Their own, situation.
As a follower of Malcolm X.
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Black Panther Party,
Yeah.
That type of era.
Nationalist. I was nationalist.
Okay. But at one point, you started to shift your views a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you started working with Jesse Jackson.
Yep. And the reason being, well, first off, let me tell you how I came to be inspired to go to college. It was through Jesse Jackson.
Huh.
He would do these tours around the country in the 70s, I Am Somebody tours, and he came and spoke at the jail, and I forced my way back to meet him. I said, I want to do what you do. I want to fight. And so he told me, you go to college, then you can. And he kept his word. When I came back from college, I started working with him. But in terms of my politics, they changed because once I began working with Reverend Jackson, even though I was a strong supporter of the Nation of Islam and the Black Panthers and the Shrine of the Black Madonna, all black nationalist movements, the Republican New Africa, all of those movements I was involved. But when I got to Reverend Jackson and I learned and saw that our progress came through legislation.
Yeah.
And we can't change the hearts and minds of people. So we got to change the laws and force them to do the right thing. And so when I saw it was the Civil Rights Act that had taken us from 25% middle class, 75% poverty in 64, 360-degree turn, 75% middle class, only 25% black folks in poverty now. You had the Voting Rights Act that came a year later. That was less than 1,000 elected officials at the time of the black elected officials at the time of the Voting Rights Act. After the Voting Rights Act, 20 years later, we had over 20,000 black elected officials, and we took over the country with the election of President Obama.
For sure. By
way of the Voting Rights Act. That's why.
I think that was a better strategy than an armed revolution to take over the country.
Yeah.
I think.
I do too.
Yeah. Okay, and then you met your wife in college, Linda. You guys had 4 kids together. And you ultimately graduate. And you started as an unpaid intern to Clyde Cleveland, the city council member.
Yes.
So that's when you were first starting to get into government?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was fucking genius what he just said. If you understand the laws, then you can exist in the society a lot better. You can't change the hearts and minds of people, but you can change the laws to make them abide by the rules. Interesting.
Let's cover that a little. First, I don't want it to sound like it's so easy for someone to come off the street and suddenly be transformed into this great citizen. So it wasn't that. It was a transition period. In fact, the first 2 years while in college, I was still involved in the game a little bit on a lightweight level, selling joints, look for all the women business, whatever I can come up with. And so by the second year, I was still hustling on campus. And I met my wife. She was my girl. I didn't know her at that time, of course, flipping 3-car Molly on campus because I was flipping the Molly. I tell you, I was hustling my way through. And so she picked up the red card and didn't have no money now. So I went off on her, went crazy on her, cussed her out.
Oh, she beat you out?
Huh?
She beat you at the game?
Yeah,
okay.
Didn't have the money now. They said, his boy working with him. And so I cussed her out, but later I tracked her down, felt so bad that I started tracking her down around campus, and it got so bad that I just got so desperate I started pulling my bankroll out. Hey, baby, I'll take you shopping. But it was then that I transformed my life totally. In fact, she gave me the ultimatum because she was involved. She was with me on some of them scams, if you will. And so she gave me the ultimatum to stop it. In my third year, I left the streets and the game altogether, third year in college. So it was a transition period.
Well, you graduate after like 4 years, right?
Yes.
And then you decided to go to law school. So you had to take the LSAT. You passed that, and you went to University of Detroit School of Law.
Yep.
Okay, so you were just full steam ahead. I'm going to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
Did you think you could become a judge at one point, or being a lawyer was the only?
No, being a lawyer, I wanted to be a lawyer who worked for social justice.
Okay.
You know, I was still there. And I'm still there now. Yeah.
Okay, the next Jesse Jackson. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so well, you actually didn't go to a regular law program. You took a night course.
Well, I went to law school, regular law school.
No, but I'm saying it was a night course.
Yeah.
And it took 4 years instead of 2 years.
That's correct.
So what, you were like working? Instead of 3, okay, my bad. Instead of 3, meaning what, you were working during the day?
Yeah, working full-time in politics for the city council and the mayor and for Jesse Jackson.
That's dope. I like that.
So I was doing all that during the day.
School at night.
School at night. So by the time I finished law school, I had already made a career for myself in politics. Because I wasn't sure if they were going to give me my license.
All right, so let's get to that. So 1987, you graduate with a JD from University of Detroit Mercy. And then it was time for you to take the bar. Did you pass the bar the first time?
No. Second time.
Second time. It's a tough thing to get through. Not everyone passes. So you pass the bar, but then there's a situation with your past criminal history. Now, I wasn't aware that becoming a lawyer and having a past criminal history are tied together.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. He won't admit you to the bar as a
former criminal.
Correct.
So you're saying someone with a felony can't get a law license?
If it's been expunged, and then it's their discretion.
Huh.
That's fucking ridiculous. I don't understand our system. Like, how do you? Okay, so this man went to jail. He served his time, and he gets out and still has to face problems within the things that he does. There are certain things I can understand, right? Like not being able to buy a firearm if you've done a violent crime or if you've assaulted a woman or something like that. You showing you're off the hinge, right? But if you were doing drug crimes or things like that in the streets, and you wanted to change yourself, and you get out, and then when you got a felony and you can't get anything, like you can't get a law license, I think you can get a CDL, but it's like they're like, I know like working as a technician is hard to do too. Like it's really hard to get all the proper things that you need, because if you have a felony, certain companies won't hire you. I know working there's a lot of things, like, you know what I mean, and it's ridiculous. I mean, you still can survive, but it's like, fuck, man, you got to give people a chance to give themselves a chance to be better. Like, it's like we say, once you get a felony, now you're fucked in society. It's ridiculous, man.
Okay, so you had a gun case. Was that the only case you had on your record?
This is what happened. It had been expunged. So they had. No, I was 17, tried as an adult.
Okay, but listen, I remember catching some stupid, like, stealing case when I was a kid, when I was like maybe 14, and then when I turned 18, I got my record sealed, essentially.
Correct. And what I'm saying, I guess, is that I was considered an adult. I was tried as an adult.
Oh, so you couldn't get a seal as a minor.
To get a seal from would be adult court.
So you're stuck with it. Was it a felony?
Correct.
It was a felony?
Carrying a concealed weapon.
Got it.
And so I had gotten it expunged by the time I had finished law school. However, on the application for the bar admittance, the ethics application, they ask, have you ever committed a crime? With an expungement, you're able to say no legally.
Right.
So I put no. But guess what the next question was? Have you ever had any crime expunged?
And you said yes.
Of course I had to.
Right.
If so, explain. Then they had me write.
Wow. So how do you escape the shit? Have you ever have committed a crime? Legally, you can say no when it's expunged. Have you ever had anything expunged?
out every little thing I did as a kid. Now that they got me in that you committed a crime lane. And so
You know what though? Can you lie about the expungement? Because once it's expunged, it's gone. Can you lie about the expungement? I want somebody to answer that in the comments. Because that's crazy. That's crazy.
I went 2.5 years trying to get my law license after passing the bar.
Wow.
Because of that. Because I went to committee after committee appeals and they all turned me down. But I didn't go back to the hood. I didn't tell my boys to give me a package. That could have been real easy. I could have been rich in 6 months. I promise you.
Right.
Instead, I
Or
took
dead.
Yeah, or dead.
Let's not forget that part. Or in jail.
Or doing that.
Rich is not the only option in that category.
I love that.
Or dead.
Remember that.
So instead, I fought back. I took my case to the Supreme Court, to the state of Michigan Supreme Court, and won.
How did that feel?
Feel like I had beat the system. I feel like I had really beat the system, the oppressor, a government. I felt that way. I felt like I had overcome being held down by the government and by the system. That's how.
His story is going to be extremely interesting to me. I really need to look into it because there's so much more I want to do in the world. I don't have anything against me in my life or nothing like that. But at the same time, though, like to know that somebody like went through that and got through it, then it's very possible to be able to get yourself where you need to go. And those are the stories that more black people need to hear, man. They need to hear these kind of stories of overcoming and how they overcame. And maybe we can follow the pattern in order to make things better. But I know one thing that I'm going to do one day when I go into politics. I am definitely going to make sure that we do something about prison reform. Something like I feel like if we reform the prisons and we make that a lot better for a lot of people when they come back into society, I think we'll like have a lot less people going back to prison. Like I think it was 60-70% or something like that of people who get out of prison go right back, but it's because shit like that. They can't get a job anywhere. They can't hardly do anything. The most they can do is McDonald's. Anyways, y'all, I'm out. Peace.